Take a police detective on the back slope of his career, add in a cop on the edge, toss in Gary Busey and loads of heroin, and happy holidays. It's Lethal Weapon. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast.
That was a fantastic intro.
Heroin.
Oh,
Just
man,
call it
lots of
heroin.
snow. Lots of snow.
This is our Christmas episode, so happy holidays to everybody. Hopefully, this is coming out the day after Christmas, so December 26th. So hopefully, everybody had a safe and happy holiday, and you enjoyed some time off and time with family. Eric, happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays to you, my friend, and to our two guests who are with us tonight.
Too.
Always,
Santa was good to us. Brought us two presents this year.
There you go.
Yeah, two presents.
Yeah.
Gift number one, Christy Cuomo. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Welcome to the show. Welcome to our second Christmas episode.
Happy holidays, Merry. Is today's Boxing Day? Boxing Day? Is that the day after Christmas? Is that
it might be.
I think so.
Boxing up the return, boxing up the stuff we don't want.
Google. We don't want to exclude
the
any
Canadian holiday of Boxing Day.
We don't want to exclude anyone in their holidays.
Yeah, for our friends
Happy Merry.
up north, absolutely. Happy Boxing Day, and
of
course
all the Jewish people that don't celebrate Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
you're excluding them.
Oh,
happy holidays, or just welcome to our episode. Either way.
We were very careful. Dean was very careful with that intro. See, he didn't say Merry Christmas. He said holidays.
I did. I said Happy Holidays, and then I said Merry Christmas.
I would just like to say that Boxing Day is the day after Christmas.
Got it. So happy Boxing Day as well. And if you celebrate or don't celebrate or whatever you celebrate, hopefully it's a good one. And we'll welcome our next, we're going to unwrap our next gift, Mr. Gerry Sullivan. How are you?
Greetings.
How are you,
happy
sir?
holidays, Merry Christmas, happy
holidays
Boxing Day.
And all that stuff. Merry Boxing Day.
Yesterday was Unboxing Day. Today is Boxing Day.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So, this is how quickly Eric and I ran out of Christmas movies to do. We were talking about what Christmas movie do you want to do? We're kind of like, it's like, we did.
Hey, you know what?
We did a lot of them. Then I'm like, Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie. And he's like, yes, it is. And I'm like, well, then that's what
it most definitely is. I'd say I would argue this is a bigger Christmas movie than Die Hard. Every scene they address Christmas practically, right? Die Hard, he just fucking shows up for a Christmas party, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
And it's like, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. This movie, it's like, it's addressed in almost every scene.
Equal Christmas movie.
And it came out a year before.
This is much more. It came out a year before, and this is much more. And it's intentional, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Yep.
With the writer is very intentional about adding Christmas into his screenplays.
Now, can I throw one thing out there, which I just learned?
Go for it.
So while I agree that this movie is more a Christmas movie than Die Hard, it's not. Do we consider First Blood took place at Christmas? I just learned this. I never noticed it.
Did it? Okay.
If you look when he's being
the police station
interrogated, it has Christmas stuff in the back, and when he's blowing up the town, there's Christmas lights all over the place.
Well, I mean, it's
is it a Christmas movie in the vein of Die Hard? This is a Christmas movie because
it's a Christmas movie for 2025, Gerry, for 3324.
First Blood. And then we'll do Silent Night, Deadly Night as a double feature.
There you go.
Why? I mean, we may as well just go there. We're halfway there now. So
yeah.
Let's get to the stats. If you've never listened to one of our episodes before, we're going to give you some factual information about the film, and then we get into the fun stuff, the wild fan theories, and our speculation and geeking out about it. So here we go. This was released in March of 1987, directed by Richard Donner. The late great Richard Donner, who was, for the most part, Eric, he was a Warner Brothers man with very few exceptions, but he was like a Warner Brothers director. He pretty much a lot of the stuff he did was for Warner Brothers with Superman and all the Lethal Weapon, Conspiracy Theory, of course Maverick. He did it well.
And he had his own entourage, didn't he? His own stort of
stable of players.
Yeah. So we'll get to that when we do the cast, but
and I think we're finding out that directors have that. Like Scorsese has players that he likes to use. Obviously, Quentin Tarantino, Oliver Stone. A lot of these directors. Adam Sandler. That's right. He's got his own little mini universe of people too. That's right. You see them kind of recur. And Richard Donner is one of them as well. This was written by Shane Black, which will figure very prominently into a little bit of this conversation. Only a $15 million budget, paltry, $114 million worldwide box office, not domestic. We can actually say the Oscar-nominated Lethal Weapon because it was nominated for one Oscar for Best Sound Mixing.
I could see that. But
it lost to The Last Emperor. So highfalutin film.
All the gunfire in this movie, and it lost to Last Emperor. That's amazing.
Well, I should have won for best sound mixing just for all the little saxophone and guitar interludes.
Oh, we will get to that.
Yes, I love the music.
Yep.
Yeah, music courtesy of Michael Kamen, Eric Clapton, and David
Sanborn, the late great. Michael Kamen too. Both of them are gone.
The three people that kind of the triumvirate of this film of score music, guitar licks, and saxophone.
Yeah.
And
what more can you ask for in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Especially that sax.
And if you didn't notice, right from the beginning, they kind of tell you that Danny Glover gets the saxophone licks. And
that's his theme.
Mel Gibson gets the guitar. He gets the but then Danny Glover gets the whip, thing. Like they get their own little kind of accent style things.
But they do, but it mixes. I of course I had the soundtrack, all of the soundtracks because they did all four of the films. Yep. But if you really listen to how Clapton plays with Sanborn, they're kind of trading licks, and it's great stuff.
Yeah, it's just little accents that they're providing. They're not providing score songs. They're providing just kind of punctuation marks to what's going on.
Kamen handled the orchestration, the big cues. But they come in and they add that nuance to it. Sort of reminds me of the old early 70s Lalo Schifrin, Dave Grusin, sound like those jazz greats. They don't
just little musical
right, exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It makes the movie seem way more bigger.
Yeah,
because it's like a buddy cop action film, but the music, to me, it just seems like it
takes it over the top.
It's not. It's not misplaced, but it makes it seem like it's a much more serious type of what's going on than what's going on the screen. I thought it added to it because it made it stand out more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of highbrow incidental music is really what it is. They just provide those little interludes that kind of bring you they bring you from one scene to another. For the most part, it's usually at the beginning of a scene. There's like a little phrasing, and then or at the end of the scene there's some phrasing, and then when there's other stuff going on, it's the score. So it's very interesting,
and it plays very, very well with the humor of the film. Because you could hear Murtaugh's theme, but then they'll sour the notes a little bit when it gets serious. Right, things get serious like that. They'll play the same theme, but it's slower or it's more dramatic. In the more serious stuff. So it's good stuff.
Punctuation and emphasis. Yeah. Christy, how familiar are you with Shane Black?
I know Shane Black. He's responsible for a lot of good flicks. I couldn't remember. Was he the one that went to jail briefly for embezzlement? Was it embezzlement? Tax evasion? What the hell did he go to jail for?
I believe he did.
Not quite what he wants
that was
to be remembered for.
That was John McTiernan.
Oh, okay.
McTiernan.
That's
Director of Die
McTiernan,
Hard.
who directed Die Hard. The other
Okay, sorry, because I knew, but no, Shane Black has been responsible for a good number of enjoyable films.
Yes, and almost everything he's written takes place during Christmas. It's a touchstone of his that he has said, and I'll read a direct quote from him about him and screenwriting and Christmas. He says, "Christmas represents a little stutter in the march of days, a hush in which we have a chance to assess and retrospect our lives. I tend to think that it also just informs as a backdrop. You know, he quotes a couple of films where Christmas was in the background, and it adds this really odd, chilling counterpoint to the plot. I also think that Christmas is just a thing of beauty as it applies to places like Los Angeles, where it's not so obvious and you have to dig for it like little nuggets." So he has always had this affinity, and we can go with Lethal. These are screenplays he wrote that have Christmas in them. Lethal Weapon, Last Action Hero, Long Kiss Goodnight, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3, and The Nice Guys.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those, especially Iron Man 3, absolutely qualify as Christmas films because he puts that front and center, and he uses that setting of Christmas as a counterpoint to what's going on, right? Especially in this film where the movie opens with Jingle Bell Rock and a woman jumping off a building. I mean, what more striking counterpoint could you get than that of this woman who's all drugged up, she's half naked, but we're hearing Jingle Bell Rock.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful Los Angeles evening. The wind is blowing. It's not wintry Christmas, right? Christy, It's kind of LA in December.
Yeah. Since you brought up the opening scene, one of the things that just is startling, I think, and again, looking into it from the scope of where we are now in society, so unnecessary. The nudity, the biting of the lip, the trying to make it like erotic, for the sake of sexualizing a woman. Granted, in the next scene we get Mel Gibson's ass. So there's some
even Stevens.
He does his own ass work.
No, not even Stevens, not even close. But just like lying there with half the lingerie open and her breast sticking. It's just
what would have made it even Steven? The front?
And him biting his lip like he's getting off by himself.
Well, he gets up, he's fucking half in the bag, like smoking a cigarette, coughing. That's a big.
But to get back to what you were saying, it's hard. It's hard to get a Christmas vibe, but I do think that they pull it off with the music, and you kind of forget. You feel like it's Christmas. Without the typical, Home Alone, the snow's falling, and you have there's no Christmas decorations in her apartment. It's not like she's festive, or anything. So
they are on the balcony.
Yeah, there was some lights strung up, I think.
Yeah,
and I think even in the apartment there might have been some lights in the background.
Yeah, but lights just could have been for the strobe when they were coked up.
No, I agree with you, Christy. I the way the women in this movie are obviously
it's depicted, a time period. Like you have to accept
it's definitely of its time. Sure.
I don't think it would happen now, but when you watch it again through the lens that we look at things through now, you're just like, oh, so unnecessary. Like, what were we thinking?
Yeah,
it's just
back then, all these action films had that.
But she lent that air of despair, though. She was the plot, right? She's the focal, like she gets the story going, right? Yeah, she did the stunt, or at least half of it. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's Kelly from Cheers. That's Woody's wife that he marries. Yeah. Kelly
Boyd?
That's her. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's her. Jackie Swanson is her name. Is the name of the actress. So that's her. Yep.
Well, let me go back to let me jump back to Shane Black. We'll do the cast and we'll do a little alternate casting, then we'll jump in. So Shane Black wrote this screenplay, and he wanted to write an urban Western, which this very much feels like an urban Western. And his original draft was very different, but while this script was being looked at and kind of being rewritten, he said to Joel Silver, the producer, "Hey, can you like put me in a movie or something? Is something I can do while I'm waiting?" And Joel Silver's like, "Yeah, we'll put you in a little movie called Predator."
Yeah.
And so Shane Black is one of the commandos.
And entered the room.
Hawkins.
Yeah. So while Lethal Weapon was kind of going through its production phase, he did work, and he did some uncredited rewriting and script doctoring on Predator too. He didn't get any credit for it, but he did he did a little work on it. Now, Eric, do you know who was originally approached to direct this film?
Oh
No.
yeah.
Sauce for the Goose, Mr. Savick.
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy. Yes, I did.
Leonard Nimoy was originally approached to direct
it. Hear
that.
I don't see it.
But turned it down.
Yeah.
Because he was doing Whiting?
3 Men and a Baby he was working on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can't...
Leonard Nimoy did 3 Men and a Baby?
He did, yep. He directed it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he wasn't a prolific director.
Shane Black was the director till way later.
Yeah, he didn't do too much.
Predator.
Yeah. Shane Black was mainly a screenwriter. He didn't do too much directing, but...
Well, I didn't know he was that side until way later.
Yeah. Nimoy... It seems like he always wanted to be a director, and he did get to direct, but then he didn't really do much with it. I can't see him handling an action film like this. I think Richard Donner was perfect. Yeah, had the right sensibility for it. Let's see.
Probably would have been, I dare say, probably would have been more comedic.
Yeah.
He would have leaned into the comedy of it, I think, more.
Yeah.
But the action, the brutality of this, the violence in this movie, I don't think he would have touched it. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely not.
Nope.
Considered for the role of Riggs, Bruce Willis, Christopher Lambert, Christopher Reeve. They were all approached for the role of
Christopher Reeve.
I just can't see it. I can't see him.
I can't see him. Other actors before. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I could.
Yeah, he's too good. He was still trying to shake the Superman.
Yeah, I could see the Bruce Willis and Mel Gibson, them switching their roles, which was actually one of the original things. But Christopher Reeve, when I saw that, I'm like,
yeah, it would have been weird.
Yeah, I can't see that.
A couple of other ones. Michael Biehn was looked at pretty intensely, but he was working on Aliens, so he couldn't do that. Pierce Brosnan, Stephen Lang, Ron Perlman, Michael Nouri, Stallone for some reason.
There it is.
Brosnan?
Pierce Brosnan, Patrick Swayze, Michael Douglas, Jeff Goldblum, and Kurt Russell.
Jeff Goldblum.
So
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Are we gonna
Kurt
let
Russell?
I don't have my Goldblum impression yet. Well.
You want a shot at the title?
Kurt Russell made the parody, right? Wasn't Kurt Russell in the parody, or was that no? That was what was the parody? Emilio Estevez
and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's.
But he did Tango and Cash. There you go. There's the buddy cop with Stallone. There it is.
People that could have been Riggs,
Yeah.
I can't see it as a Stallone vehicle because he was doing Cobra at the time. Well, I mean, he was already doing that kind of stuff.
He was big at the time too.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson wasn't really a star. I mean, he gained popularity, I guess, with Mad Max, with Road Warrior and stuff. But in between that time, I don't think he was.
No,
quite
this
there
put
yet.
him on. This put him on the U.S. map.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Raj, if you told the jump, Raj, what do you want from me?
That would have been a disaster because you could
Rodney Dangerfield.
Because the way Danny Glover was freaking mumbling throughout the movie, like him and Stallone together. Can you imagine that?
You could tell Danny Glover redubbed a lot of he did a lot of ADR. There was so much dubbing in of.
I know. Goddamn heartbreaker. The whispering,
So I'm too old for this shit.
No way you live.
Yeah, that is like the one thing that drives me nuts.
So what we did end up with is Mel Gibson as Martin Riggs, Danny Glover as Roger Murtaugh, Gary Busey as Mr. Joshua, who was on it. He had to audition for this role because he was kind of persona non grata in Hollywood. He had some problems, but he lost a lot of weight, got fit. He's like, I want to work again. So they got him as Mr. Joshua, which is perfect. This is like prime Gary Busey before the eyes went wacko and just everything, the hair, he just morphed into something else. Mitchell Ryan as General Peter McAllister. Shut.
He was in Dark Shadows. He was one of the regulars
in the original.
In the original.
Tom Atkins as Michael Hunsaker. We know him from Halloween 3, right?
And The Fog.
You owe me. You kill him. The great Darlene Love as Trish Murtaugh, who is known for having a singing career, but then she started to transition into acting. But a big singer in the 60s, and oddly enough, she's known for a lot of Christmas songs, a lot of holiday songs, Marshmallow World and
Marshmallow,
a whole bunch of other ones.
Dean.
Marshmallow World.
Marshmallow.
And then Tracy Wolf, introducing Tracy Wolf as Rhiann Murtaugh, which is, they handle that relationship could have been problematic, but they handle it as a puppy love crush that she has on Mel Gibson, and Mel Gibson doesn't entertain it. Was that?
She was annoying.
Really? I love that family. Like that. That's one of the things about the film is they immediately immerse you into both worlds. When we see Danny Glover, he's in the bathtub, and his kids come in and celebrate his birthday, which is kind of weird.
Was that not weird?
No, that's weird.
I'm the only one that thought that was weird.
There's not enough bubbles in the bath.
There's no bubbles in the bath.
No, there isn't. Just that's thin film on top.
Okay.
But other than that, I agree with Dean. Like, I like how he is with his kids. Like when the three little ones come out, and he's like, "Which one's my kid?" And I love his affection for his children. It's kind of infectious. But the bath
they show
scene,
it, they don't tell it.
And with each film, you grow up with this family. You see the kids grow. By the third one, there's that bit with Nick and his Murtaugh killing his best friend, and the gang and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's good stuff.
You immediately get a feel for the house is as much a part of the family as well. Like it just feels so inviting and so welcoming. It's like I immediately, like, whenever I see this movie, it's like I want, even though her cooking is horrible, I want to have dinner at the Murtaugh house. It seems like so much fun. The dinner scene when they invite Martin, when they invite Mel Gibson over, and get the desserts, and it's just stuff that you have done in your family before the two younger kids are goofing off.
Somebody said, I don't know who wrote it, but they said it was Lethal Weapon is 48 Hours meets The Cosby Show. And it's not too far off.
They bring out the Sara Lee frozen desserts, which
we might know now.
Like in the 80s, that's the dessert they'd bring out, the frozen Sara Lee cakes or whatever. I do want to ask, is that a picture of Danny Glover at Murdoch?
No, it's Martin Luther King.
Oh, it is on the wall
when he walks in. Yeah, the
okay.
sketch.
Because I'm like, that's weird. Is that like a sketch of him?
No, that's
like it was just an odd piece of because the art, it seemed sparkly. So I was like, oh, one of the kids, it's really good.
Maybe it was made of velvet.
Yeah, and a nice piece of foreshadowing too is you see the stuff on the refrigerator about apartheid in South Africa.
That I saw. That
prominently in Lethal Weapon 2, which is a big part of the plot there. There's that continuity that I love.
And then on the flip side, Gerry, we get Martin Riggs. His opening shot is a lone dog running on the beach across the street and then into this trailer among other trailers. It's almost like it's not even a trailer park. It's just like people living by the beach,
living on the beach.
And he is diametrically totally opposite from the life that we're seeing in the Murtaughs.
I didn't see this movie in the theaters. I'm not sure when I saw it, and I'm not sure what this says about me, but I actually, what's the word? I leaned more towards Riggs to the point that I was like, I could be a cop like he could be. maybe not to the drastic part of the his mental the struggles of wanting to off himself because of his wife, but the insanity, like the that whole aura of him. Mm-hmm. And I can say I totally get the Murtaugh, the family thing. That like you said, they paint the two pictures very well. But Riggs, and I can remember thinking, like, while I'm watching it now, I'm like, what the hell was wrong with me? In that I felt more of a kinship with how Riggs handled things and how Riggs looked at things than I did Murtaugh. And it was like, I was like,
he was the edgy. Well, he was just fucking edgy, cool, man.
Yeah,
you could
the edgy
loner admit it. I mean,
through those eyes. One of the things that came to me just when I was rewatching it was there's a line in it when the psychiatrist or whatever was arguing with the captain and was like, he's not good, he's off the, and the captain says, well, if he kills himself, I'm wrong. And I'm like, could you imagine that today? Like, it's fun. Like, this movie stood up to the point of when I rewatched it, I loved it the same. It was still great. The action sequences are done because there's no computer generation. It's no CGI. It's all like real stuff. But I'm like, there's a lot of things in it that would not last today. And that was one thing
way.
That hit me. Could you imagine, like,
you could not make this movie today?
Well, if he kills himself, I'm wrong.
The police interrogated children.
Yeah,
like that whole thing of like.
Now you, Alfred.
I wanted to ask you guys,
it's a real gun.
But to that point, I wanted to ask you guys. There's a deleted scene apparently with Riggs when you first meet Riggs. When he wakes up. He's drinking the beer, and then there's something on the TV that kind of pisses him off. So he throws the beer bottle at the TV and he breaks the TV. Right. So he's like, and then he pulls out the picture of his wife, the wedding picture, and he says, I'll buy a new one. Right. So like later on, after the bit with the guys and the Christmas tree lot and all that, he comes back home. He's carrying a box with the TV. Now, instead of the scene that I guess that was shot with him trying to commit suicide, watching Bugs Bunny, the scene said he goes out to find a prostitute, and he pays the price. That she gets in the car, his truck, and he gives her the money, and he's like, "I want you to come home with me. Three Stooges is on tonight. I want you to watch the Three Stooges with me." And that she's like, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's He's like, boop, boop, and he does the whole bit. Now, that to me, that scene feels like that's what would happen today. That's the kind of thing I think that Disney would probably lean into, something much milder than him putting a gun in his mouth, almost, blowing his brains out. That
a little more wholesome.
Which was one of
And that scene is just so intense. I mean, it's just well, hang on a second, Christy. It's a piece of acting by Mel Gibson right from the jump of just him. There's nothing else going on. Him, the photograph, and the gun, and that's all he has to work with. And you feel everything that he goes through a lot in there, from the despair to getting ready to do it to almost choking on the barrel, and then he can't do it, and then he thinks, well, that's kind of silly, that's kind of, I'm being silly anyway. He really shows that he's more than just this cop on the edge. He really shows his range there, Christy.
One of the things about that scene, and I don't know if it's true or not, but so Mel Gibson had something to act off of. They kept like a blank in the chamber. Now, what we know today with blanks in chambers and the safety of guns, and they acknowledged that there was a little risk to it. It was a 99% it was going to be okay, but there's always the 1%. So when he has the gun and he's putting it to underneath and in his mouth and everything else, there is probably some genuine fear, because there's no guarantee that he wasn't accidentally going to blow his brains out. He's hitting the trigger and stuff. An accident could have happened. Again, what we've seen happen, starting with The Crow and everything else. The other thing, to your thing about the prostitute, Eric. I mean, would they have handled it as well as when Danny Glover said to the other prostitute, all dressed up and no one to blow?
No one to blow.
No one to
funny. You're real funny.
I mean,
you're hilarious.
Let's get back to the chief.
It'd be nicer to the prostitute today.
Hopefully. There is the thing, the reason why the chief is so callous and so cavalier about that is they firmly believe that Mel Gibson is faking. They think, well, he's just pretending to be crazy so he can get a pension and get out. And that, I mean, I'm not excusing the chief because he's really great because he's just so like, I really don't care. The woman's giving him all the psycho babble, and she almost becomes a caricature of herself in the rest of the films. Like it's almost like a running joke with her. But in this one, it was more serious, where she's like, "Yeah, this guy's got real problems," and he's like, if he kills himself, then we'll know. And then he's trying to go into the in the bed. They're like, "Excuse me." I'm going into the men's
asshole. Room. And these are, and we mentioned the company of players that Richard Donner, Mary Ellen Trainor, who plays the psychiatrist, and the great Steve Keehan is I always thought it was his brother because he looks a lot like Richard Donner, but it's his cousin. And he's he was in Superman. You see him in like pretty much probably all of his films. I'm sure he probably pops up in the Goonies at some point. Most likely. I don't know for sure, but yeah. I mean, like I said, these familiar faces. But yeah, he's great, and he was. I remember when we saw Lethal Weapon 3. Dean, you busted out laughing when they kidnapped him. And he's like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, Dean, like he was like crying. I'm like, "What is so fun?" Like just the way the delivery of the way he said it was just.
We don't have actors like that. We don't have character actors like that anymore. Like that's like him, Emmett Walsh. Like all these guys are like there are certain breeds. Strother Martin, guys like that were of their time, and they're just.
I'm going to throw out Shea Wingham. I think is a kind of like that.
He's kind of like that. Shea Wingham is like that a little bit. He's kind of a he's got that vibe. A little bit more of a. He's more than a character actor though. He's kind of he gets juicy and meaty parts.
He does, but he has that quality to him.
Yeah, he definitely does. We'll put Shea Wingham in there, and then we get the return of Gary Busey, just kind of as Mr. Joshua. And another great character actor in that scene is Ed O'Ross. He's the guy, Mr. Mendez. He was in Dick Tracy. He was one of the rogues gallery in Dick Tracy. And you guys are nuts. You guys are fucking nuts. Off the wall.
Are fucking gone, man. You're
totally gone, man.
The fire thing when he's like,
give me your hand. Give it. Shut up.
I mean, you could swear that he's really taken that flame. I don't know.
I believe Gary Busey would really take the flame.
It just looks. It looks so.
Yeah, it's like shimmering on the skin.
Oh man, you see the black starting to form. Yeah, I'm convinced that actually happened.
There's no way Gary Busey does not have a scar right here.
Right.
What's that, Jimmy?
Go have that taken care of, and he just turns around and walks away. Like
casually rolls down his sleeve. He's like, "All right, I'm getting paid, so my men are loyal to me."
Dean, you didn't mention who was up for the Mr. Joshua, which when I read all of them, I was like, "Oh, I can see every one of them."
Who was
I think it was Willem Dafoe, James Woods. They were all like,
they don't have
James Woods is too like.
James Woods is a scumbag.
He's a tall guy.
Scumbag.
But Gary Busey was really fit and tall. James Wood was lanky back then.
He was very thin.
Was thin also. Like you needed somebody that physically he overpowered Mel Gibson.
Riggs would have kicked his ass in the end.
But then again, Mel Gibson's pretty fucking thin in this movie too. If you know, I mean,
but he's jacked.
But he is definitely.
But Gary Busey is more like brawn. He's just like a bigger figure.
Yeah, I guess.
Which matches against Martin Rick. Like this guy's so imposing and he's just big and nothing bothers him and he's smart. He's tactical. He's there's all these different things. That's why I said this movie like lives on its, like, the screenplay is the foundation of creating these characters, creating this world that they live in. The seedy side of Los Angeles, but then there's just a family man that's detached from it that does his job, and he's kind of getting ready to retire. Even it's like, you're retiring when you're 50. It's like no one retires when they're 50.
Right.
Like, 20 years, never got shot, never got,
and he's perpetually retiring, right? Yeah. And in all the movies, he's trying to retire.
By the way, 3 of you are 50 or older. I'm nearing 50. I'm like, retiring? Why do you keep saying he's too old? Like, I'm like, what is going on?
Not even close. Not even close. There's and so what happens in this film is, there's obviously a mystery. They're trying to solve the murder of this girl who, well, it turns out to be a murder that jumped off the building, which ties into heroin deliveries. It ties into all, this Vietnam covert operation that was happening that was now resurrected and taken over. There is something that bothers me, and it always didn't sit right with me. See who can answer it. After the scene with the swimming pool, I think it's the scene with the swimming pool when Riggs and Murtaugh go and they get invited in and they kill the guy. Mm-hmm. When Murtaugh comes home or he gets up, he goes to get a beer, and there's like some packages. There's like a birthday gift for him. He unwraps, and then there's an envelope, and it's got a yearbook and a videotape in it, and it says evidence. That came from the police,
and it's opened.
And they sent it to his house. So it was,
maybe there's a deleted scene that explains that. It is a weird thing because he opens up the toys.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, that's
kids or whatever." And then it's like, "Hey, here's porn in a yearbook."
Yeah, and it's open, and the envelope is open.
But he also opens up the birthday gift, and he had said to Riggs in the car, his birthday was yesterday, and he opens the birthday gift, what is now the day after his birthday, which is also a little weird. So Gerry's probably right. There must have been a deleted scene that would have actually tied that together, because it doesn't make any sense. The timing of the birthday gift.
Surprised.
Yes, and he's not surprised. He's like, "Oh, evidence. What's in here?"
Yeah, he's not surprised that there's like an envelope of evidence. Well, he's like,
the scene where he goes to the bank and he confronts Hunsaker. He tells him, my daughter was into making pornographic tapes. So where did they get the tape? So was it Hunsaker that provided that to the police? Maybe he gave it. We didn't see it, but he gave it to Murtaugh. With the yearbook, or
maybe this was evidence that was at her house, where she was living, like her yearbook, and
could be
the video, and then they packaged it, but then they sent it to. Still, it's just weird sending it to his house.
It makes sense. Part of what makes sense is if he sent it, because when Joshua and them are grilling Riggs later on in the shower with the electrocution, they're like, "What did he tell you?" Like, so they know that he spoke to the police. So maybe he did have things that he shared with them. So maybe that did come from him. I don't. But no, it's a valid question, Dean, that none of us can answer.
Now that I think about it, I think it was probably from
there's a couple of things that are pretty suspect in this movie. Like I said, when he at the bank where he's like, you killed him, you find him, and he knows damn well who did it. Mm-hmm. And he's like he's like telling him like he wants him to kill them. Yeah, right. That's not gonna.
He's still playing both sides against the middle.
And there's the one scene, I swear there might have been a scene in between the funeral with the helicopter, when and then the scene where like Riggs walks up to the Asian prostitute. He's like, what's a nice Irish girl? That whole bit, like how did that was a weird transition too. Like, how did they know that they would be coming for them at that moment? You know what I mean? Like the conversation that Gary Busey had with the general via the radio. How did Riggs and Murtaugh know that they would be coming for them? Yeah. Right. Because he was wearing the bulletproof vest. And so there had to have been something in between that, we'll do this and that I'll make
it out, try and smoke them out,
smoke them out and make it look like they killed me so that, you know what I mean? But that just seemed like a weird, just a weird transition right there. Yep.
You don't think that he was just because Murtaugh was surprised he was wearing the vest.
Yeah.
And Riggs is the one that was like, they think I'm dead. Like, I see where there should have been a little, like, why would he have put on the vest? Like, what would made him have put on the vest?
Yeah.
But I don't think that there was any plan of that. I think because he says to him in the helicopter, he said, when he brings up the fact that, the cop is still, the cops are there, and he says, I didn't kill him. And he's like, I'm disappointed with you.
Yeah.
So I just assume that Joshua was tailing them or following them and saw this as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Why Riggs put on the vest?
And maybe Riggs thought that things are escalating, so I need to be a little smarter.
Yeah.
I think it's
but that whole. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think it might be more of a hole in the writing, because if you take the fact that he's wearing the vest and you couple it with that we do find out that Riggs is not playing crazy. He's not playing crazy to get a pension. He's depressed because his wife died, but he also makes it very clear the only reason he doesn't kill himself is for the job. So he's not stupid. So putting the vest on kind of solidifies the fact that he doesn't want to die. Like, he's not trying to kill himself, and especially not in the one thing that keeps him alive. So it's probably just, always took it as like, maybe it's just, it's a hole in the writing. It just, you had to kind of get there on your own. That was just how I get there.
Things are escalating, and he's understands that these people are no joke, and kind of, especially probably after everything that Roger told him when he had the conversation with Mike.
But while we're talking about the scene with the helicopter, the two things that I did write down: who has that many containers of eggnog and chugs eggnog?
Me. Guilty.
Who's opening it? Like, have you ever had eggnog?
Well, first of all, my son pointed that out.
Eggnog is a heavy beverage.
Actually, I watched it with Zach and Jacob, and they were both. This is supposed to be like a somber occasion. He's all now. It's like they're fucking festive, serving
but he's
eggnog,
opening a carton and chugging it. Like it's milk.
It was the 80s. It was the decade.
It wasn't even refrigerated. And eggnog.
It's not even called eggnog. It's called party nog. Like what's in that eggnog there?
And,
I wonder.
Listen, it was the decade of excess, and that went for everything.
Eggnog excess. And
eggnog, drugs, everything.
Just because you don't drink eggnog at funerals, don't be getting on other people.
I can knock back.
You know what? Next funeral, all I'm putting on the table is eggnog, and I'm going to see who opens it and starts chugging eggnog. And have we ever seen the use of a helicopter quite this way? It's used like a car. Like, it's always in the scene, and in the field, like when they're going after the cars in the door, they're like, go. They're like, he's like, Gary Busey's like, go get her, and like the helicopter's like literally turns around like it's a vehicle and starts chasing it. It's just it's an odd. It's like they that's what they budgeted for, and they had to use it.
Very dramatic. It's not necessary. It makes it. I don't get it. People had that complain about Close Encounters, the scene in the Gobi Desert where the helicopters like come over, and like they were like, that was a major critique. Like, who has like jeeps flying over the dunes and the friggin' helicopters like flying close to the ground? Why is that a thing? Like, what's so dramatic about them?
I think it makes
the scene in the desert. It's over the top, but it is intimidating.
Yeah, it makes a statement. Yep.
When you see them driving and there's a and then one of the reasons to go back to what's her name, Brianna being annoying, she turned into
Rianne, Gerry. It's her name is
Rianne.
Rihanna. I said Brianna because she turned into just the helpless, screaming, useless human being.
Oh my God.
And the whole plan of when Murtaugh says, get in the car, like, I don't know what you're thinking there, but the helicopter, like, coming so low and hitting the car, Like I see there, like I mean, I'd be intimidated as shit if I'm driving along.
Yeah, of course.
And a guy is knocking on my door with a helicopter.
You know what, though?
Like, I kind of see the.
I just think it's hilarious that she's fucking fleeing in a limousine,
in a limo,
you know, in a stretch limo.
They might have, they might have
had bodies on it.
But you talk about excess, Dean. I agree. I totally, yes, Dean, you're absolutely right. The excess of that.
Yeah, but they might have needed a helicopter to pick up General McAllister, though, right? I mean, he was all the way out there with Riggs, kind of getting him, but not really, because they show them walking.
They show them walking towards,
Oh yeah, I think
I think it's like you say, it's intimidation. It was that's the bottom line.
And I think Riggs could have shot Mr. Joshua.
He almost had him.
He had a shot, but because he was doing his crazy. Show yourself. He wasted that second. If he shot,
the wind. He was trying to get the wind right too, because the wind was blowing and the smoke. I mean, he's got you can't.
But Gerry, that's 90% of every action movie. Everybody has to have their lines, their monologue before they fucking kill somebody. It's never accurate. It's never
I have a question for Dean. That scene.
Yes, I would drink a whole thing of eggnog. Yeah,
I'm gonna. Merry.
And then I'll go for another one.
Merry Christmas, because I'm getting you eggnog. That scene. What film was inspired by that? To at least have something similar in it. At least that's how I felt.
Scene?
What the
desert scene? Casino?
It didn't remind you of anything?
Casino?
It totally reminded me of Seven. Driving out. So I was like, oh, this is where Seven got that from. Totally reminded me of Seven.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like, how do you tell them where to go?
They said
go to the
lake.
desert?
It was something lake.
Turn right at the tumbleweed.
Yeah, but it's
you'll see the
pretty vast.
You'll see the 20
it didn't look like there was any road there. It was just desert. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see the cars rolling up on you. It won't be hard. That's why they had the helicopter. This way they know. Oh, there they are. You can't see the cars.
How much was the budget for the film, Dean?
$14 million.
14 million. So 13 million was spent on the helicopter.
There lies another little bit of a plot hole too. If they had a helicopter, and if the thing was circling, wouldn't they have seen Riggs?
Well, it wasn't. It just came in with everybody, right? It didn't.
Yeah, but it didn't go that far. But it could have, and that would have been. But it's but the potential of that is like, they should have, used it to make sure that there was no other cops.
Instead of using
right. So it just flies around like 10 meters, around everybody, and it lands like Christy was saying, it's like a car, but it should have been like flying a couple of miles out just to make sure that there was nobody else coming, that, they could have easily spotted Riggs that way. So
be better at your job is what we learned.
Well, they assumed Riggs was dead. They never would have guessed it.
Yeah. Well, they figured it out in short order, but then you got the great scene actually when Rianne gets kidnapped and Riggs and Murtaugh are in the living room talking about this, and Mel Gibson Riggs is like, Raj, it's going to get bloody.
Yeah,
and they are bathed in red light.
Yes, I noticed
the whole scene. They are sitting in front of a Christmas tree, but there is a red light from down below or somewhere. They are bathed in red light when they're talking about how this is going to get bloody. So it's a nice touch push for the audience. Yeah, a little, really kind of driving it home.
That's cinema.
Like Gerry said in the beginning, I think action films, even now, should be shot practically. Like this is a lost art of shooting films with actual car crashes and flips and just live, putting it in the real world. And that's kind of where action films have kind of lost a step, is now because they can do CG. These guys can do leaps that are not in the realm of possibility, and just all this other stuff that really kind of, you can amp it up in a practical movie, but they never really did. Like these movies, the action scenes were big, but they weren't like implausible. The most implausible it got was Die Hard 2 when Bruce Willis gets blasted out of the,
my God.
But there was still that keeping it in the realms of possibility, but nowadays with CG, they just kind of do everything. Cars, jumping across bridges, fast and
across
furious,
rooftops. You can do that.
Stuff. And to Gerry's point, like I watching this, I appreciated that this was just going to take place like with what was there. They used the old piston under the car to flip it over, the hydraulic piston and flip it over, and just regular old gunplay, regular old fist fighting. It was, it was brawling really at the end, which, you want to talk about a scene that had no business being in there. Was the whole fight. It's like the guy's arrested, and it's like, well, no, let's, now we're going to do police brutality now.
Murdoch said it's on him. He's
like, oh,
yeah, but then at the end he goes,
hey, I'll take full responsibility. This is Riggs is,
and his other
they got to do this.
He just killed 2 cops. So let him kick the shit out of them.
Son of a bitch just killed 2 of our men. Yeah. Well, that's,
that extended the film by like 5 minutes that didn't need it. Because in the end, we could have gotten Gary Busey being arrested and pulling the gun out of a cop anyway. This didn't really lead to that. The only thing it led to was Mel Gibson, it gave him the thing of not killing him. Right? Because I was like, fucking kill him, and break his neck and break his
unhinged fight I've ever seen.
What's that?
Like just the way. I mean, that was like the last 20 minutes. Once he kills the torture guy.
Yeah, Endo is forgotten.
The movie just is hilarious. Like that fight was just so unhinged. It was like you said, like it was gratuitous, but he wanted a shot at the title.
Yeah.
Give him a chance.
Jackrabbit.
But Gerry, did you say, Gerry, that Murtaugh wanted to it's like a tag team match? He's like trying to get in.
Yes.
He's like
let me in, and he's like,
let me take him. Let me take him. Yeah, you can take him. He's like tired old man, like running, like when he,
dragon.
But the thing is I wasn't convinced that Riggs. I could understand if maybe these guys had a history, perhaps they met back in the war. Like there was, I would have totally bought that scene at the end, but it just felt there wasn't enough of that going on. Like, this guy's just as good as me. Whatever. And the fact that he got away from Riggs, is that the reason why he can beat the shit out of him now? Like, because he was,
he didn't even know who he was.
I think there's some contempt.
Right.
I think
exactly.
At one point he goes, "Is that him?" After the guy falls and is hanging, he goes, "Is that him?"
Yeah. I think there's a contempt for like the fact that he's a mercenary, the whole heroin thing, right? Because he says, he goes, Mel Gibson says to Joshua, he goes, "Why don't you just call it what it is? Just call it heroin. Like you're pretending like you're elevated above this." So I think he just had a real contempt for the whole thing. That these guys were Vietnam vets like he was. It was special forces, but they're using, they're really betraying that whole thing. And I think that's really
sullying the name of special forces. Like he's making what made Riggs who he was.
Yeah.
He's giving it a bad name because they have the same tattoo. They're the same person.
Yeah. Different sides of the coin.
It bothers him.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. It's just kind of like, oh, you think you're badass special forces doing this kind of stuff, and
I think
you want to shut
so interesting that the thing that they would use was Air America, which Mel Gibson was in Air America. Yeah, there was and he like clapped it and Michael Kamen did the soundtrack to Edge of Darkness, which was a movie, which was a British TV show, but then it was an American made movie with Mel Gibson. So it's interesting that, he would like play out these roles. Yeah. Like, and it's almost as if they set this shit up, but anyway.
One of the things that is really good about Lethal Weapon and why I think it's so enjoyable is and it's why I think Roger Ebert loved it and raved about this film, is because not only are you getting this really good action film, but you're also getting a drama. Like there's depth here. It's not just an action film for the sake of an action film. You deal with like some pretty serious subjects. You deal with, with the drug addict in the beginning, and it turns out that it's murder and overdose, but you're dealing with his wife's death and him, his wanting to live. And I think so, as gratuitous as that last scene may be, there probably is a little bit of, Mel Gibson's still working out his demons. His character Riggs is still dealing with it. Yeah. He's angry.
Yeah, that's what it was.
We know he's angry. What it was. And so if he can take it out on somebody who is worthy of that anger,
piece of shit.
He can exercise it. Yeah.
He can get rid of those demons. So it's not completely. I'm sure it's in there more for the machoism of it.
He let him go at the end. No, you're right, Christy, because he let him go at the end. He goes up because they're like, kill him. He's like, you're not.
Because he got it out. He got out a lot of his anger.
Right.
And he's not as angry in the next 3 films that we see him in. So
that's right.
So there is something there. Again,
the next 3 films.
It's probably just not, again, as good as, and I think he's a phenomenal screenwriter, as good as the writing is, probably just a lot got cut and just didn't have enough to really, for these little holes we see, especially with Riggs, to really like kind of fill it in just a little bit more to get the audience there. So you have to take that leap of faith to think, okay, this is why we're here. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Gerry, you were saying.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The next 3, I don't really remember the next. They're more lighthearted, right? Yes. I mean, they bring Joe Pesci in.
It definitely becomes like, he's crazy. Mel Gibson's crazy, haha, like that type of stuff.
And they have Rene Russo, and they play off each other.
Yep.
So this one was
this one was dark. This was dark, and Shane Black wrote a screenplay for Lethal Weapon 2, and they didn't want to use it because Riggs got killed in it. And it was too dark. And Shane Black said, this is probably one of the best things I've ever written, was the screenplay for Lethal Weapon 2, but they didn't even touch it. They didn't even use it for him. Like,
because there was no money in the franchises.
This has the darkness, and it's got Murtaugh, where he's back then 50 was old, and it's like, well, what does it mean? Am I on the backside of my career? And he got reinvigorated and kind of, felt vital again. Like there's so many different little things you could be looking at, the drug addiction, the pornography, but then there's all those great family scenes in between of Mel Gibson, coming over to Roger and putting the coffee in his face in the morning, and just kind of, him kind of, latching on to the surrogate family and them accepting him openly. Like that's, the family accepts, Riggs open arms, like, you work with Roger, yeah, come on in, and probably wasn't, and he's you see like at the first dinner, he's kind of uncomfortable like that. He's like, I'm really that whole thing is I'm really good at doing it, killing, kind of share, that's the best thing that he could share about himself. That was the best thing that he could open up about at that point was, after being on the boat and chatting, and he's like, yeah, I'm really good at it. Like that's
again, that goes to the point that it's so much more than just an action film.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of layers to it.
I really think this is the gold standard. I mean, we're kind of nitpicking some things. If you watch it, most of the stuff glosses over. It's because we've seen it so many times. This movie was kind of like, like this is the one, like if I had to pick one action film, it would be Lethal Weapon.
I don't want to say, I'm going to say it, but it's like, it's very cliche of me
to
say
it,
but but they don't make them like this anymore. They just don't.
Yeah.
Everything's your point
aware now. That's why.
And your point to the work, the craft of the stunt people and Zoe Bell, the great Zoe Bell, who worked with Quentin Tarantino and Kill Bill. She did a video on YouTube, the letterboxed, the whole like 4 favorites, like picking your 4 favorite films. Lethal Weapon was her first. And she was like actually embarrassed by it. Like she said, like, I'm under the umbrella of Quentin Tarantino. He's got this big brain and, he knows movies like no other person and blah, blah, blah. But she was like, you know what? This is my shit. This is what I got into the business for. watching these kinds of movies. That's why I'm a stunt woman. And, and unfortunately it's, becoming somewhat of a lost art in that in itself. People losing jobs because, well, now we could have a digital double doing all kinds of shit. Or AI now is even worse.
Everything.
So
hopefully much like vinyl, it comes back.
Hopefully, I doubt it though, because it's just so cost effective and easy. You don't have to have locations; you just be on a soundstage. Lethal Weapon in 1987. It was the 8th highest grossing film for 1987 domestically. Do you know what the 5th highest grossing film domestically was?
No.
Do you have a hint?
3 Men and a Baby, directed by Leonard Nimoy. It grossed 3 Men. So I guess Leonard Nimoy made the right decision.
That was only because there was the dead kid in the window.
Yeah.
3 Men and a Baby made $70 million domestically. Lethal Weapon made $65 million domestically.
Damn.
So I guess Leonard Nimoy understood where his bread was buttered, what his strengths were, because he made that. Number 1, just for shits and giggles, was Beverly Hills Cop 2 with $153 million that year. And then followed by Platoon. Fatal Attraction, The Untouchables. So there was some heavy hitters.
That's a good list.
Predator finished number 10. So Predator finished behind Lethal Weapon with
3 Men and a Baby
with 50 minutes. RoboCop was 14. So a lot of these classic films, 87 was a pretty good year. Dirty Dancing, I thought that would have been, that was a major sensation.
It's actually a really good year of film.
Yeah, it was only the 16th. Full Metal Jacket the same year.
Wow.
Spaceballs. We should do Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
Lord,
that's a classic.
Yeah.
Didn't you open with that, Gerry? That makes us absolutely nothing.
Yes.
Actually, now you have to do Spaceballs.
I think that was pre-recording, I think.
Was that pre-recording?
So I think we have time for some favorite scenes, because there's a lot we left on the table, and I hope I left some favorite scenes on the table. So Gerry, why don't you give us a favorite scene? I have 2 offhand.
I mean, I guess the fight scene at the end, but if you want to pick a smaller part of that, when the car crashes, after Joshua is shooting up the house and the car crashes in, the whistle that when Riggs, I could never do it because I can't really whistle well, but when he's like, he points the gun and he just whistles.
Yeah.
I have wished I was cool enough to use that in some sort of situation in my life, but that leading into the fight at the end, it was good too, but it's just one of the most entertaining fights of a movie, because you have the whole, you want a shot at the title. I mean, if I could fight, I would be doing that to everybody. And then
just
the way the fight went, because at one point he throws them on the cop car.
Yeah.
And it's poor. It seems like poor dubbing, but Riggs makes this weird yelling noise as he runs, and then him throwing the Joshua trying to beat him up with the huge the pole, and then Murtaugh thinking, "Here's the baton," and that actually worked. That whole situation, and I watched that multiple times after having watched the whole movie. So I'll say, if I'm picking one small one, it's the whistle of the way he catches,
and then the big one
up until,
and then the big one.
You want a shot at the title.
All right. Christy, what do you got? You got a big one and a small one, or what do you got? 2 small ones, 2 bigs? What do you got?
I don't know if they're big and small. For the acting, the opening scene with Mel Gibson with the gun, with him, I just think it's probably some of the best work he's ever done. It's intense, and it really lays out his character. There's so much just happening in that scene. He the dog, the television set, it's just, there's a lot going on there. I like I like when he comes in for dinner. I like the dynamic with Riggs and Murtaugh. I like the family. I like the way he, I do, much like Dean said, I like his interaction with his family. It just gives a whole different vibe to the film. I like everyone in that scene. I don't think I don't think the kids are annoying. I know Gerry doesn't like Brienne, as he calls
when
her.
she starts doing the screaming stuff.
But like
up to that point, she's fine.
Yeah, I enjoy everyone in that scene, and you do get a sense of like Eric said, like especially all of us here because of our ages, we've all been at that table in some way, shape, or form, and so it's kind of like a nostalgic thing, and it's almost like when you smell something and it brings you back into a memory. Like you see something like that and it transports you back into a memory. So for multiple reasons, I would pick that scene as well.
Cool. Eric, what do you got?
Oh God. I'd probably go with, I mean, I was a big Miami Vice fan. So, I mean, Crockett and Tubbs were the shit, but these guys like really like brought it to a whole nother level in terms of the whole like duo thing. But for me, the scene where, the jumper, where he brings him, when they brings the guy down, he's like, me, and he's like, oh, you fucking,
worst
when
ever.
Murtaugh brings him into the that room or whatever, and that interchange where they're screaming at each other, and he's just like, what do you want to hear, man? And he's like, that was intense too. That was some really great acting. And man, I mean, you feel that tension when the gun's just about to pop, and he's like, oh, and Murtaugh just goes,
really are crazy.
But then take that scene and then jump to the scene where they had after dinner, and he tells them, he's like, look, I this is the only thing I'm good at.
Yeah.
That's I love that interplay. I love the fact that, those characters grew just in that short amount of time. Yes, just those little experiences they've already had. There's that mutual respect is kind of growing there, and then by the morning when he's come with a cup of coffee, they're buddies. At this point on, from this point on, they're a team. Yeah. And I love that, and it just happens so it fairly quickly, but yet at the same time you believe it, you buy it because it's just yeah.
We only have
and I just like these characters. The movie, the other movies maybe not as good, but I just love these characters. We went to see these other films because we just love these two.
Yeah.
Right. Lethal Weapon 2, I thought was great too. I mean, even though it could have been better, but yeah, it's just, we grew up with them, like, in a way, like just in that time frame.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a great time for these films. I was going to pick that scene also only because Eric, like you said, when they're in that store that they're renovating, and when he pulls the trigger and his finger gets caught in it, and then Mel Gibson's like, I'm hungry, I'm going to go get something to eat, and he does this thing. He does it in other movies. His eyes go like dead.
His weird face, yeah.
He's like, I'm hungry. I'm gonna get something to eat.
And he made this like
he totally detaches from everything that just happened. Like it's a weird detachment that he has about it. Like he doesn't acknowledge that was just really intense. It was kind of like, I'm just gonna get something to eat. So
and he made this weird like face, like with his mouth, like and he just like walks out.
Whatever.
And he could have been hungry. He just had a hot dog.
Don't they mirror when he's in the first scene, he puts the gun in his mouth and then he puts the gun under his chin. And then don't they mirror that in that scene?
Yeah, he said, don't nibble on the barrel. Put it in,
put it in your mouth.
Puts it
and then he said better under the chin.
First. Yeah. He puts it in his head first, and he said the bullet might go through your ear.
To that, like the fact that he really was doing that.
Yeah.
And then it's like when you say, like, afterwards when he's like, I'm hungry, it's like Murtaugh literally, I mean, the perception of it is he saved him by throwing his finger in there. And it's like, it's almost a relief. Like, if you want to be like play psychiatrist, he's like, this guy has my back. But he can't, he's probably never had that. So he's like, all that adrenaline's gone. He saved the guy. He did it his own way. But now he's like, I just need to go eat. And it's like, it's a whole, like, you almost get that. It's like a letdown. It's like.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do.
Yeah, it wasn't, it seems like this is something I go through all the time. So it's like, I just had another episode.
Actually, yeah. It's something he goes through probably on, a regular basis.
One of the things it's easy to forget in this movie. It's like you keep reminding yourself that Roger was part of the war too. He was a veteran as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's they have that in common, but you forget that because he's a family man. He kind of seems like he got over things fairly easier than Riggs might have, or Gary Busey's character.
What you're forgetting, what we
assassin. Murtaugh was saved, so they had to. What we know about their journey, the Vietnam War is a lost thing. Like, this seemed like a time when there was a lot, like, people would come, like, if you were a Vietnam vet, you saw some shit. You don't really get that with, like, soldier stories of today. But anyway, like, they took two different paths because Murtaugh was saved by Hunsaker.
Yeah.
Riggs was the assassin. He was the murderer.
Yeah.
He never had someone have his back.
Yeah.
Now he literally had Murtaugh had his back for the first time that he had ever seen. Someone was there to, even though he told him he was crazy. Yeah. He showed him your life is worth this. You are part of this, and it's a different thing than Riggs had ever had.
Yeah, Christy, and then I'll do my favorite scene.
You picked a complex.
Sorry.
Picked a complex scene. You picked a complex scene, Dean. What I think gets forgotten, and so he was a mercenary, and Murtaugh was saved, but maybe he has PTSD. But I think the things he learned in the war are assets to him. They're things that help him. What keeps getting forgotten throughout this entire film is that his wife died a couple of weeks ago, and there's a picture of him in the house where his hair is short. They're coming out of the church. He's in his suit. She's in her gown. And there is a very distinct before and after in Riggs, and we tend to forget why he is in the mental state he's in. His wife was just killed a couple of weeks ago, and so this suicidal.
Were they living in the trailer together?
Well, people live in trailers, Gerry. I mean,
they do.
Sorry, I'll stop.
But
I'm assuming that they probably had a house, and
we don't know because we don't know the before Riggs. We have one photo that gets snapped in front of us, and it is a very different looking human being than what we get now. So I think that is more, again, the writer might have just assumed the audience was going to get there, or things got cut, or he just had to keep the script, to 90 pages or whatever the length of the film was. But I think that's the element that gets forgotten from everyone. Okay. Dean, go on with your favorite scene.
My favorite scene.
I hope is it going to require a 15-minute conversation afterwards?
It's not going to lead to a 20-minute discussion. I'll tell you that. My favorite scene is after the whole desert and the helicopter, right? So Riggs and Murtaugh are captured, right? And they have them separated to find out what they know, right? And so they got Mel Gibson strapped up. He's going to get the electric shock, and they got Danny Glover with the fucking salt, like the fucking Morton, salt, the handful of Morton salt right into the fucking wound. He's like, "I'll fucking kill you," I'm not telling you spit. And,
go spit. Meanwhile, like this big wad of phlegm comes out of his
so they bring Rhiannon in, and they hook her up, and he's like, "Oh, she's looking good." He's like, "I'm telling you, don't." Right? So McAllister's like, "There are no heroes left in the world." Guess what? There is a hero left in the world, because the door opens and Mel Gibson throws a body on the guy. He grabs the next guy, puts the gun into his belly, and fires like 4 times. He's like, "Who's fucking next? Who's fucking next?" Like, he's in like berserker mode, right?
That's great.
They gather themselves. They leave. When they walk out of the room they're in the fucking bar. Mel Gibson just shoots the guy at the bar. He just shot the guy like point blank. I don't even know if the guy was a thug. He shot the guy at the bar.
And no one looks initially.
No one looks. No one has any
This is a
reaction.
bar.
So they're walking.
There's music.
Was he even a henchman? I wonder, because he didn't have a gun. Yeah, he just walks up. He could have been a waiter or something.
Like
just
Gerry
He's just getting a jacket
what
coat
did the
and a
sheep
lap
say to the shepherd? Let's get the flock out of here. He says
I use that joke quite often. So then they walk after he kills the guy at the bar. They're walking through like the strip club or whatever, like all disheveled. And then another guy comes up to Mel Gibson and he puts the gun in him. He's like, bang, bang, like 4 like rounds right in the belly. Like you don't even see the gunshots. You just see the guy doubled over with his hand in there, goes, bang, bang, bang. It's just like it's fucking brutal. Like that whole scene is just brutality. It's like he's just like has this adrenaline rush that he can't control himself because they walk out. The guy sitting at the bar could have been like a guy having a mailman having a drink after.
It could have been Woody from Cheers.
Yeah. He like walks out, just wastes the guy. He doesn't shoot the bartender. He shot the guy at the bar, and then they walk by. Yeah. And then they go do. So it's just like there's great action. Like there's movies like that, like and like
that's
Commando,
your Western right there.
That have these great action scenes.
Most definitely, it's very much what Shane Black
Western.
pitched.
That's Western.
It's an urban Western.
It's got the showdowns. It's got Danny Glover with the gun facing off, one bullet shooting the guy, and the car flips over, and
they should have had Clint Eastwood in the bar and shot him.
It's they had to, and it's important enough to show that they're dealing with people who are like higher level killers and things like that. So the gunplay isn't just, gratuitous like street thugs, even though Gibson in the beginning, he shoots those guys in the the Christmas tree lot. He's just fucking going to town there.
Anthony
But
Kiedis' father from Red Hot Chili Peppers, one of the actors.
Is it really? Oh, he's the guy with the black hair? Really?
Yeah, the one that looks like him. That's his father.
He looks just like him.
Right?
with the flannel shirt. Yeah.
His father.
Him, or is that?
Oh my God!
We're gonna have to look that up. Let us know on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook if that's actually Anthony.
That's true.
His father.
I'll IMDb it right now. Challenge me.
I think
that is hilarious.
What do you think? I think that's going to do it for Lethal Weapon. This is if you didn't get it by now, this is just a classic among action classics. This is action film 101, especially for the 80s. Just kind of has all the elements of what they were building up to. Like they would, this they took this from 48 Hours, obviously, but like we said, they improved on it, and then the Lethal Weapon model was taken for another 3 films, and they're supposedly maybe working on a Lethal Weapon 5. Actually, there's talk.
They made a series. I've never seen the series, but yeah.
That whole mismatched buddy thing, just really like I think Lethal Weapon cemented it with the popularity that 48 Hours didn't get, and then just was and again, just from there it just kind of grew, and then you had Die Hard right after it. So really the action genre really got kickstarted with that, with Gibson, Stallone, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger. This was like the glory days. 87 through 92 or 93 was just like
pretty much. Yeah,
we were just getting fed a steady diet of movies,
and we kept going back. We just loved all of it.
Running Man came out the same year too.
Yeah, even Predator 2, man, which is a Danny Glover and Gary Busey, Joel Silver. That was, but I that's a guilty pleasure of mine because I actually like that film, and that's freaking brutal, that movie. But I enjoyed it. Yeah,
it's worth watching.
Yeah.
There you Absolutely. Go. All right, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. Think what? Quickly.
Blackie Damet. He died in 1921. Is his father. He is the father of Anthony.
Died in 1921? 1921.
2021.
120 years ago.
You're going to tell me this guy doesn't look like him?
Is he Anthony Kiedis' father? Oh, it
yes.
Is? Okay. All right.
He looks just like him.
Yeah. There
you go.
Fair enough. We have confirmed it. He was the thug in this, but
he was thug number 2, drug dealer number 2.
And he had at home. He went home that night to a little chili pepper.
He was under a bridge.
A little chili pepper. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Happy holidays to everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this holiday, very special holiday episode. Gerry Sullivan, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you.
Once again, happy holidays. Go and have yourself a nice big fat carton of eggnog. It's the holidays.
Party nog. Get the party nog.
The party nog, which has a little extra in it.
Yeah.
It's heavy on the party, light on the egg. Christy Cuomo, thank you so much for joining us as well. You can have the almond milk version of the party nog as well. You can enjoy that.
I'll chug it away.
Thanks.
Carton is in the mail. We'll mail it to you in dry ice, so it'll be nice and ready chilled for you. And Eric and I will enjoy a little spiced, maybe a little alcoholic nog that they sell at the stores nowadays. We'll grab some Pennsylvania Dutch spiked nog. Yeah. And imbibe a little ourselves. And again, we want to wish all of you a happy and safe holiday. And thank you for sticking with us through this episode and throughout the year as well. And we've got our new year coming up real soon. So we'll have a whole slate of episodes in 2025 for you. Hot and ready as always. So for Gerry, for Christy, for Eric, this is Dean asking you, please, definitely on the holidays, please be kind. Go ahead and rewind.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.